Okay, we're off and running. Hi guys, back again for another chat. Got a very special guest for me, a proud New Zealander who stays in Abu Dhabi. If you don't mind me saying that, who's massive rugby fan, and but I'm gonna save the rambling because I'm very good and bad at that. I'd like to welcome Zakaia Cvitanovich. Sorry.
That was quite close. It was quite close. Cvitanovich.
Cvitanovich, aye. I swore I was going to get it right first time when we came on here, and now I feel like I right it. But anyway, Zakaia, obviously heartbreaking for you lots on Saturday. But your thoughts on the game? What do you think? England too good, New Zealand underperformed. What are your thoughts?
Oh my God. It was just, it was just one of those games that all through the first half, I was just expecting New Zealand to get going, and even at halftime, it was 10-0, and I thought, oh, not a problem. They'll come out. Hansen will just, go really ape at them and the sheds, and they'll come out firing. Apparently, was it Dane Coles said in the Namibia game, because they were a little bit slow to start in that game as well, in the pool game. And at halftime, he said he hadn't seen Hansen go off at them like that for a long, long time. So I thought it was going to be like that. And they came out after halftime, after an abysmal first half, and they still went firing. And I don't know, they just looked stunned. They looked like rabbits in headlights. They were running around. My Scottish folds. They were just running around. It's like they didn't know what to do. And it's not nice, it's not nice to see your team, that's usually a very good team, just be so inept. The guys, it's not like the guys weren't trying. You could see that they were trying. And I've been reading a lot of posts saying, oh, New Zealand didn't turn up and all the rest of it. And I think that that's really, really disrespectful to England. I mean, everything we tried, England shut down. They were faster, they were stronger. They made our tight five look like schoolboys, basically. I mean, I've never seen Whitelock and Retallick be so ineffective.
Yeah.
And Taylor's throwing his lineouts, I mean, it was abysmal. It was almost like they were trying to lose. And I think I wrote that on my live blog.
I wouldn't go as far as say they're trying to lose, because you could tell. I think the tactic of bringing Scott Barrett in, you could tell they were going to try and target England at the line out. But in a way, that was also a problem, because it was obvious that was what they were trying to do. And you could tell just that, especially the early phones, Retallick especially was just trying to go up and just like disrupt the England line out. And he just wasn't managing at all. And the England line out was just so solid. I mean, I think to my knowledge, they were 100%, apart from the one time, of course, which New Zealand scored their try off. But yeah, I think you made some fair points. But I mean, I think for the most part, England just absolutely shocked yous. They just, the start, I think New Zealand were looking to feel their way into the game, and England just wouldn't let them. I mean, you could tell with that opening box kick, which Aaron Smith played a little bit too long, and then just England just came like bouncing back, and you could tell by the way New Zealand were making their tackles, it was like, what the heck is hitting us here? And then it just ended up in Tuolangi scoring his try. And then I think actually New Zealand did expect England to sort of like slack off a bit, because it is like really hard to play at that intensity for 80 minutes. And that just didn't happen. England just kept it going.
Absolutely. And that's what I was, actually, it's quite interesting here. I'm just looking at the AB's app with all the statistics. And it says here, we only lost 2 lineouts. It felt like 20.
I know, but that's the thing. England were really like disrupting, and they did. I mean, I don't think they did win an awful lot of lineouts, but they were definitely effective in how they managed to disrupt them as they did. And
absolutely.
And for the most part, legally, from what I could see.
Yeah. I mean, Whitelock had his brain fart, and we got some nice amateur dramatics as well, and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, God, if you go back to the 70s, like, before your time, that kind of thing happened all the time. I'm not saying that it should come back or anything like that. It was just to see Whitelock resort to that. Again, he's not a dirty player, or I don't think he's a dirty player. But the guys are getting frustrated, and England was superior in absolutely every facet of the game, and it kills me to say
that. Being a Scot, I feel your pain like that as well. But I thought, I mean, especially like England up front, it was just what impressed me most is just how they managed to keep that intensity for the whole 80 minutes. They just apart from one line out where Ardi Savea scored, they just didn't let up at all. It was just
absolutely. And I think that's another thing I kept on thinking. The ABs are just going to wear them down. They'll just, because they're a very fit team, the ABs. So I just kept on thinking, okay, at some stage England are going to tire, because as you say, you can't keep that intensity up, because the first 20, 30 minutes, it was frenetic, wasn't it? It was just, it was so high paced. And so like I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting for the ABs to to score a bit more. No, it's one of those things. I guess as an All Black supporter, we're probably not. We're not used to the ABs playing so poorly. I guess that's it.
You're not really used to losing, are you? So.
No, and I mean that's another thing. I mean, because a lot of people call us arrogant and that we're poor sports and all the rest of it. But I think that when you follow a team that's so successful, sometimes it's really hard to keep it all in perspective. And I think that I always say that every country has its fans that are the loud, obnoxious ones that do the team a disservice and do the country a disservice. And I really don't think that we've got more than anybody else per se, but yeah, we do have our fair share. But I just think that there's nothing to be upset about. I mean, I'm disappointed. I'm really disappointed. And I can cry, because it is disappointing, and it had been built up for so long and all the rest of it. And I think when you've got people retiring as well, it's nice to send them off on a high rather than on a disappointment. But it's not like 2007. I mean, we were disappointed then because we felt like the game was taken from us rather than us losing it. And I think there's a big difference with that. I mean, we were outplayed. You can't argue with that. And England was so the deserved winners. It's just one of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I totally agree. If it's a better, if you're just beaten by a better team today, you just have to hold your hands up. And that's the thing you say about older players is, players like Kieran Reid. I mean, I don't remember Kieran Reid having such a quiet game like ever playing for New Zealand. I mean, I think I only remember him touching the ball once, maybe twice the whole game. Yeah. But I mean, I also think New Zealand's tactics were a bit naive as well. Like as you say, I think we were both saying, I think we were thinking like England can't keep that intensity up the whole time, and they just and they never dropped off at all. But New Zealand still just kept trying to throw it around, like go wide and bring it back. They tried to do the kicks in behind, which were a mixed bag in terms of execution. And they're up and unders as well. I mean, there was one up and under Bowden Barrett did, which I was like, I was a bit baffled by, not just because he executed poorly, but I was thinking, why are you doing this? Because he was like on the English on the halfway line, and he did it. I thought he had a chance of a counter attack, but it's just kind of stuff like that. You think you wouldn't expect New Zealand to make those sort of mistakes, especially because being the World Cup. Because I thought actually going to the South African game, then the Ireland game, and New Zealand did look like, I thought, okay, they're definitely back up there now, and then England just obviously blew that away.
Didn't they? I mean, that game against Ireland. I mean, I think New Zealand were looking very good, very comfortable. I just think, look, I don't even know what went wrong. But surprisingly, and there's been times before where they've had to go into plan B or plan C or whatever. They just didn't seem to have any answers for what England were throwing at them.
Yeah, I mean,
and bloody kicking possession away all the time. Oh my God. It just, if it doesn't work the first 300 times, why are you continuing?
I mean, that's the thing. I think a kicking game is fine as long as you're accurate with it. I mean, and you're kicking with purpose. And I think the accuracy was a bit of a mixed bag. But because England were so good, they...
And that's what I mean. If it's not working, try something else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, because that's the thing. Actually, this is where one area I think South Africa in the final could frustrate England a bit more, is because I was screaming a few times for New Zealand just to slow the play down a bit, take the sting out of the game, and try and just like unsettle England that way. Just keep going through the phases, and then try and kick in behind if you have to. But I mean that again, because New Zealand, they like to play a quick kind of quick game and try and like. I mean, in my opinion, that's the proper way you should be trying to play rugby. But I mean, if it's not getting your results at that time, you have to try and change it, as I say.
You mix it up, don't you? Actually, no, I think I made a comment on my live blog that I hadn't heard Richie Mo'unga's name until quite a way into the first half as well.
Yeah.
And, if receiver, I mean, his name should be coming out all the time, shouldn't it?
Yeah, and I agree with you. As a 10, I thought he was surprisingly quiet as well. So
yeah, I mean, it's just very unfortunate that they all picked the same day to have an off day. That's what it felt like,
Well,
if I was 15 other people on the bench.
Well, I've heard things like folks saying New Zealand picked the wrong bench, or like the selection is wrong, and you could have picked Rico Iani or Ben Smith in the 23, and I think that could be good points, but you'll never know really if it would have made a big difference.
To be honest, I don't think it would have mattered. I don't think it would have mattered who we had in the starting 15 or in the matchday 23. I think England in that frame of mind, I think they would have beaten anyone.
Yeah, true. I mean, that's me saying like even slowing the game down a bit might have frustrated them more, but England were just so good defensively that even that would have been an issue.
Oh, absolutely. And it's one of those things, isn't it? Because I was thinking, because there's been a little bit written about, that apparently some people think our try was illegal, and that the 2 English tries, should have been given, and there's that usual stuff afterwards. And then I read that people were getting upset because there was an article in New Zealand where it said about the head high tackle on Reece, like perhaps with a different ref that could have been a yellow card. And
no, they got that. That one was right, because you can tell Henry Slade tried to put his...
Absolutely. I've had no problem with it at all, but I was sort of thinking, they could have red carded 8 of their players and it would not have mattered. I think they still would have had us. I just, I think sometimes people look for, not excuses, but look for reasons. And I think it's important to discuss it and to dissect it. And of course it's important for them because they don't want to have another game like that, for God's sake. However, I don't like sometimes how, and I don't think it's real fans. I think it's more the plastic bandwagon variety.
The folk who get behind their keyboards and just be like, it's all the ref's fault and that.
Well, not just the ref's fault. Like, oh, bloody Hansen this and Reed, why is he still in the team and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, what have you done with your life? It's really easy for us to pick faults. But those guys were out there trying. They were trying their hardest, and you could see how disappointed they were.
Yeah.
And I just don't like character assassinations that sometimes follow a loss. I mean, I think there's a big difference in dissecting a game and discussing a game and talking about what went wrong and what perhaps we could have done better. But I don't think character assassinations are necessary. And I Blacks fan site, and there's some people are sort of saying, "Oh, thank God Hansen is retiring because he should be fired." And it's like, oh yes, let's forget about the record, shall we?
I mean, actually, I think like those sort of folk I've found are in the minority. From what I've seen, the reaction from most New Zealanders has been outstanding. The way they've just said, "Yeah, we were just beaten by a better team on the day." And the thing is, like, you don't. Because you look at what people like Steve Hansen, like Kieran Reid have done for the All Blacks in the last however many years. Like, you don't just like throw that all under the bus after one game at all. Like one.
course not, and I think it's one of those things. It's frustration. Again,
Absolutely,
it's just, people are disappointed. But, and I mean, to be honest, I've been a little bit critical of Kieran Reid. I mean, I think even in the Lions tour,
I think he's looked a bit slower in the last couple of years. I'll agree
yeah.
there.
Well, I don't think as a captain he's a strong leader, not like Richie McCaw was.
No, he's not. No, I mean, then again, with someone like Richie, you'd be hard pushed to replace someone like that as your captain. So
I know. If only he could have played forever.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I think he's Kieran Reid. He is a fine rugby player. And I think he is a good captain. But I mean, at that level he's fallen from, it was always going to be a big challenge.
Oh, absolutely, a huge boots to fill, of course. Yeah. I just remember thinking during the Lions tour that I don't know if that third test would have ended the same way if Richie McCaw had been in charge.
Well, that's the thing. You never know. I mean,
I think Kieran Reid is such a nice guy, like a really, really lovely human being. But I don't know if that necessarily makes the best captains. So I've been critical of that in the past. But I've never wanted him to lose the role or anything. It was just an observation that I had, and I think he's done incredibly well considering he had that major back surgery and everything. Mm-hmm. And he had been slow, hadn't he? But then at the World Cup during the pool games, he seemed to be back into his old self.
Yeah, no, the South Africa game, he was really good when he got the opportunities. Apart from that one high shot that was missed, which he was lucky to get away with that. I'll say that much.
I think whenever you're on any of the forums and Kieran Reid's name's mentioned, that shot is just shared and shared and shared and shared.
I know.
And I'm sitting there thinking, yes, I've got photos I can share too.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, to balance up that game, Peter Steph du Toit made an absolute shocker of a high shot, and that was missed as well. So
the one I got. But I don't want to get into that. Somebody shares a photo and then you share a photo and then it's like, rah. No. I think that, like the thing is, and this is what I always think, those players, they fight so hard, don't they, on the field, but then they go and have a beer together afterwards. If they can be respectful towards each other, why the hell can't all fans?
Yeah, exactly.
I just think it's a shame. I think we let our teams down, and I'm not talking about you and me here. I think those obnoxious ones let the teams down, by I don't know, by just sometimes the behaviour online. And of course, I don't know, social media has just made it so easy for people to do this kind of thing, hasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, because these kind of things, like I understand more, obviously now you've got the TMO and extra technology these days, so it's going to get picked up more, but you're still getting these little things that folk are just pointing out, and it's just it's really just kind of nitpicking. And
and I mean, first of all, sometimes I always think, my God, do you not work? Do you not have a life to go through a game and pick up those little things like that? I mean, it's unbelievable, but I don't know. I can
understand it a little bit if it's a big decision that has definitely that has absolutely affected the game. But if it's like just a little thing, you think, okay, that's just missed. Move on. I mean, yeah. No, I was just going to say, like in the South Africa Wales game, there's a moment where Francois Lowe was having his leg grabbed onto by a Welsh player. I couldn't see who it was, but he was just kind of tried to bat him off, and folk are making a big thing about, he's gone and punched him, and you look at that, you think, get a grip, really, come on.
Yeah, I know. It's interesting, isn't it? I think that and also, if somebody's holding on, you're gonna try to shoo them away anyway, aren't you? And I mean, I didn't see, because I watched that, and he was obviously hitting at him, but I don't know if I saw it.
No, there wasn't a clear punch to anything dangerous. He just kind of sort of just he was hitting the fist a bit, and he just kind of sort of get him off his leg, which in that situation, yeah, exactly. It's like in that situation, what are you expected to do? Like, It's kind of,
No, I know.
I mean, I'm not saying
I think it's
I'm not saying what he did was necessarily right, but at the same time, the Welsh player grabbing onto his leg, it's like that's not legal either. So
no, exactly. So I mean, yeah. So what's the worst thing that's happening there? I don't know. I mean, I agree with all of the changes that World Rugby are trying to bring in to make it safer. I mean, the last thing we want is for players to get, head injuries, or nobody likes to see any player, stretch it off the field or anything like that. I don't know. I think as spectators, have we, are we just a little bit too PC these days or something? I just don't know. I mean, in the old days, nobody would have probably even mentioned that.
but also got to take into account didn't have social media back in the 70s and
That's true
and all
too. Yeah,
that, and
I mean,
they didn't have technology then either. Sort of. I mean, there was. I mean, you hear some of this.
well, you did all the replays and see. Sometimes I think that just whips a crowd up into a frenzy, doesn't it? When they replay something over and over from different angles, and the crowd just gets more incensed as they do that. And like sometimes I'm not sure whether that's a great thing to do.
Yeah, and also the problem with like TMO as well is when it goes to slow motions, it always makes things look worse than it actually is. I mean, I've said before, I think slow motions are good for like tight calls that lead up to tries. Like if a player's kicked it and maybe slightly in front, or if a pass is slightly forward, it's good. It's good for that. But for stuff like foul play, I think you need like actual real time to judge how bad it is, and slow motion can sometimes inflame that a lot.
Oh my God, absolutely it does. I absolutely agree with you there. Yeah.
So
I was just going to say, I didn't actually see the Wales game. I was
didn't you?
I was lecturing. I tried. I get a little bit sneaky. I try to watch it on my phone, but I couldn't that lesson. I did get to see some of it, but I was once I finished class and got back to the office, I was looking on Tribe, and I was just following the scores. And the thing that amazed me, it was just so tit for tat, wasn't it? Like South Africa got a penalty, then Wales got a penalty, and then South Africa gets a try, and then Wales gets a try, and right up into the very end. I mean, it wouldn't have surprised me if Wales had snuck away with that win. That wouldn't have surprised me at all.
Well, yeah, I mean, because the thing is, Wales at 16-all, they did have a chance. Reece Patchell had dropped goal on the halfway line, even though I don't think they made the right call there, because even though they were going through phases of possession, they weren't really getting anywhere. It just kind of like they still had time on the clock. I think why not just be a bit more patient, like get more support around your pods, so you can try and make maybe a bit more ground. But they didn't seem to do that so much, and they just kept going backwards, and then they just rushed the drop goal. And then, and then that key turnover, which I've spoken about, with Francois Lowe turned over Alan Wynne-Jones. I mean, this wasn't entirely Alan Wynne-Jones' fault, because he should have had more support around him when he was carrying the ball. He made a decent carry, then Francois Lowe just went and got the ball, and then it was a penalty off a driving maul where it was the Wales 18. Dylan Lewis went in from the side at a maul, and then Henry Pollard obviously slotted the kick and finished 19-16. But on the whole, yeah, as a spectacle, it was just dull, unless you like that sort of like, boot it up in the air and smash them back. The sort of rugby that South Africa are obviously renowned for.
Right, yeah.
But, sorry.
What was the half time?
Sorry?
9, was it 9-3 at half time?
9-6 at half time, yeah.
Half time. Yeah. I remember when I started watching, trying to watch, and it was 3-0, and it was like, my God, how can it only be 3-0? Because it was, it wasn't like just 2 minutes into the game. And I remember being surprised at that. Yeah.
Well,
but then I guess that, that shows how evenly matched they were on the day.
Well, they were both. Sorry, Zakaia, they were both playing exactly the same style. It was just a case of both just tends just boot it up in the air. They chase the kick, and either they try and catch the kick or they smash back the person who catches the kick. And that was the first half in a nutshell.
God. Again, that's almost like going back to 70s rugby, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because the game has changed so much now. I guess we're used to more running and keeping the ball in hand.
Well, it's still like in the roots of South African rugby, that kind, and you can tell like this is where you can tell like Barazi Erasmus as a coach, he is a typical South African with his pragmatism, and you just know how at their best they're going to play, because they still have an absolute massive pack of forwards, and they still have a back line that can sort of that will just run and like chase you down all day, and that's
God, no, absolutely, yeah. No, again, just looking at the stats here, and again, Wales, they had 61% possession. I mean, it just shows you that
Wales had 61%. All right, okay.
Yeah,
it's just because
61%.
Yeah, because it seems South Africa had most of the territory in that game. So yeah. Okay, I didn't know it was 61%,
but it accounts for nothing if you don't convert those opportunities into points.
Yeah, I mean, as I was saying, I think most of that 61% came from two moments in the second half, because the build up to Wales's try, which Josh Adams scored, they went through about 20 plus phases, and then they and then they got a penalty off of that, and then they went for the scrum, and then the scrum was under pressure, and then they went wide, and Josh Adams scored.
Okay.
But that was the other thing that tipped the balance in South Africa's favour a bit, was their physicality just started to tell as the game went on, and they just got physically just stronger and stronger, and it started to wear Wales down a wee bit, which is again how South Africa play. Like they just.
Yeah, well, I thought that I mean, a lot of the Welsh players were looking quite tired, I thought. And then they had the injuries as well.
Yeah, George North's one looked pretty bad. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's never nice. I'm just
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, we don't wish any rugby player to get injured at all. But his one, like, he looked like he like pulled up his hamstring, and he tried to keep going, but it was just the point where you just think, like, just for your own safety, mate, just come off, and then that's what they did. So
exactly.
Yeah.
I guess it's one of those things, though, because I mean, like any of those guys, they're not going to want to leave, are they? I mean, they're going to want to stay out there. That's why. Now, what game was it? It was Farrell, wasn't it? When he got shoulder charged and
against Argentina,
and he didn't go for a HIA, and there was talk about that. Like why didn't he go off to have an HIA? I mean, he should have had. And somebody said, did he say to the medical staff that he didn't need to? And it's like, well, that shouldn't be in a player's hand. That they need to be pulled whether they want to or not, just to get that checked out.
Yeah, that's the thing again. Like, because I mean, I think he was down for a bit, and then he got back up. But the fact it was a red card, I don't think had much to do with that, if you know what I mean, because it was a red card offence. He just like shoulder charged him straight in the face.
Right.
But yeah. I mean, I just remember, like, he was down for a bit, then he got up, and again, that's a difficult one. Like, what I mean, because if I don't know, because I mean, I think that sort of stuff from a referee's perspective is out of their hands, because if a medical doctor tells a referee he's fine, then that's like not your responsibility.
The doctor's the experts, so
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still a few things around that need looked at a bit, but
I think they're feeling away with a lot of that stuff, though, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was in the first game, wasn't it? Was it our game against South Africa where Sam Kane went off to have an HIA, and then was it the 10 minutes was up, because they took the 10 minutes from when he left the field, and it's like it was quite a long way.
It's 15 minutes though, the law. They have up to 15. Yeah. They have.
He was over the time, and it's like, well, why do you take all the the getting there into consideration? Because it was quite a walk. But yeah, that was a little bit. It just seems such a long time ago, doesn't it? Those first games.
Yeah, that's just time flying for you.
Yeah, really.
But yeah, I mean, anything else to say about Wales, South Africa, other than it was what it was, really?
Yeah, no, like from what I've read, it didn't seem to be an overly inspiring game.
No.
But in saying that, I don't think, again, I in no way think that South Africa are going to be the same team in the final. They're not going to play like that. They'll go up a gear against England. I guess for me, there's a couple of points. Can England replicate that game that they had against us in the final? Because that was almost perfect rugby, wasn't it? Can they do it 2 weeks in a row? That's a big ask on those players. But equally, I mean, how is South Africa going to be? Because I thought that South Africa played well against us, way back then. And then, like so many of the teams, us included, they had easier games where they weren't really tested and all the rest of it. They were tested, obviously, against Wales because it was such a tight game, so close, all the way through. But can they go up the gear that they need to match the England of last week, just in case they arrive?
Well, the England of the team that play New Zealand turn up, England will win pretty comfortably. Well, I don't know about comfortably, but they'll win definitely.
No, absolutely.
Absolutely. But I mean, South Africa, I think physically they're all, because just like their specimens, who they are, and their forwards, they're always going to be tough. They're always going to be like their tackles are just always going to be absolutely just smashing opponents into next week. I mean, you look at like how Peter Steph du Toit tackles. He's like, I sometimes think it's like being hit by a cement truck when he tackles somebody. He's just a beast. Etzebeth and Vermeulen, they're just absolute beasts. Their pack, and
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, so I think physically they'll be like okay, but it's just like I think a lot of it comes down to if England can replicate that intensity. And how they're and if South Africa clean their kicking game up, which was a mixed bag against Wales, because I know they're going to be trying to kick a lot again, and they're going to try and like pin England back to the corners and try and like physically smash them in their own half as much as they can, and try and force England to kick, obviously, so they get field position, etc. But it's just a case of like if England can cope with that, because they'll have those moments where it won't go their way as much as it did against New Zealand, and also if England can maintain that intensity from last week. If the intensity's there for the whole 80 minutes, then England will beat them. But again, that's just like it's just going to be that's what I think there.
Yes, yeah. No, it'll be an interesting game, that's for sure. I think I think England will win. But I don't know, is that because they beat us that I want them to win, so then it makes it feel better?
Well, I mean, letting my heart rule my head, I'm rooting for South Africa. But no, I mean, for a good of rugby though, if England play like they did against New Zealand and they spread the ball, because that's the thing, there are weaknesses in the wide South African defence. That Wales. I mean, this is where Wales got their tactics wrong, in my opinion, because the times they did exploit South Africa out wide, they looked dangerous, but they didn't do it nearly enough in the game, and that's where Wales went wrong. And I think England will look to that, and they'll think, okay, there's weaknesses here. We can look to get it wide if we're smart, and as they showed against New Zealand, they're more than capable of doing that.
Well, he's a clever cookie, isn't he, Eddie Jones? So I'm sure he'll have all of that kind of thing.
Well, he's playing.
I sort of think it's so ironic. It'll be so ironic if England win, because with John Mitchell being one of the coaches, like fiasco with New Zealand.
Would you take Mitch back if he leaves England after the World Cup?
No,
not even as defence coach.
What he did to Christian Cullen. We have long memories.
Oh god! Oh yeah, I remember he booted out a number of them in 2003, didn't he?
God, it was a nightmare. Let me see. The more I think about it, though, the more I'm sort of liking the idea of perhaps Jamie Joseph and Tony Brown. And there was an article today by Sonny Bill Williams was interviewed, and he mentioned the fact that it'd be kind of nice to have some Māori or Polynesian input into the coaching team. And I was sort of thinking, because those two guys have done wonders with Japan. I mean, obviously it sort of set it up, but I think they've taken Japan to that next level, and they work so well together as a coaching team. And I know that Tony's heading home. I'm just not sure about Jamie Joseph.
Yeah.
A lot of people like Razor as you know.
I was just going to say, Zakaia, you can take Jamie Joseph and Tony Brown. We'll take Scott Robertson for Scotland here, please. And
we want them all.
No, don't. I know it's a pipe dream for me. Don't worry about that. I know you'll get him before we ever can. So,
but the thing is, everybody's saying that because of Ted and then Hansen, that the coach, whoever takes over Hansen's job, he has to have that overseas experience, and it's like nowhere is that written. There's nothing that says that as a prerequisite for the head coach's job. Obviously, it makes sense for them to have some of that, but I don't know if that's I don't know
it's not essential at all, because I think this is where I think they might plump for Ian Foster possibly, is because Steve Hansen was there under Graham Henry, and then at the time he took over, he was like almost like the perfect mold to carry on where Graham Henry started off, and then he did what he did, obviously.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that don't want to see Fozzie in charge, though.
Yeah, I've spoken to a few of them. So
because I think they remember his days at the Chiefs, and they weren't exactly the most successful era the Chiefs had. I mean, it looks like Dave Rennie
He's looking like he's going to Australia.
Yeah, which is a shame, because he's really been enjoying his time in Glasgow, hasn't he?
He's done okay with us. I mean, he's like, I wouldn't say he's really pushed Glasgow on after Gregor Townsend, but
I don't think the success of the team. I mean, I think he's enjoying his time there.
Yeah, I mean, but I've had a few sources and folk I know who follow Glasgow more closely than I do, and they say that his wife's not settling well in Glasgow, so it's likely that he'll be looking to move to New Zealand at the end of the season, because in his contract's up at the end of the season as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if he either goes back home or takes the Australian job, because he's in the pipeline for the Australian job right now, as far as I know.
It's the rumours, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. I mean, for me, it just seems a shame that there's got to be Australians that can take over. They've got to.
I think Australian rugby's got more problems than just who's going to be their next head coach. And
yeah, it sounds like it runs quite deep, doesn't it? I mean, their grassroots is failing, but also I think the relationships between all the bosses and everything obviously aren't very good.
I mean, I think that 2015 World Cup run where they did very well get to the finals, to be fair, is that kind of plastered over a lot, because I mean that's where a lot of Australians don't like Michael Cheika anymore, but I think the problems run a bit deeper than just him as a head coach. Even though I think he had his moments as a clown, obviously, especially in the press room. But as a coach, I think technically he's very good. It's just there's clearly issues off the field going on there.
Yeah.
And like folk from the top, I think there was an interview Alan Jones did. I remember about 7 years ago or something like that. Don't know if you remember it. Where he just talked about how the Australian setup is now, and that sort of it's like run by a bunch of people who know nothing, and that he went to the New South Wales Rugby Club, and they had a nice spa there, they had a nice gym, they had like all the facilities needed. And then he said oh, I'm just not seeing one thing here. What's that? A rugby ball. And basically, it's like I've not. I mean, it's like so. And he said you can't play rugby. I mean, I understand he's got obviously the old fashioned roots, and he won he won the Grand Slam tour in a Test series against New Zealand in the 80s in the amateur era. But I think, but also I can understand I think those roots are still there. That's something New Zealand do actually get, is that they can be technically skilled, physically on up to speed with what's needed, but they know the most key thing is how you play as a team with a rugby ball and your technique around the pitch. So yeah,
it was interesting because there was an article, and was it in the Guardian or somewhere like that? Because the famous no dickheads policy, And they were talking about how, well, New Zealand doesn't follow its own rules because civil reason, and the what do you call it, domestic violence and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, my God, you've so missed the point. That's not what that means at all. It doesn't mean being a perfect human being. It means, it means that unity of the team. It means not having any prima donnas in the team that could upset apple cart and all that kind of thing. So from just some of the stories that come out of Australia, I don't know whether they were that unified.
They didn't look it. No, I mean, I think the past 4 or 5 years they have been more or less just relying on Hooper and Pocock more than anyone else.
Yeah.
And Kuravetti, who looks like he's going to be a good player for them going forward. But other than that, I just look through the Australian team and I just don't see you go through the past Australian teams, like the one that won the World Cup in 99, 91, even the 80s, and you just see star names throughout the team.
Oh, just incredible, eh? Yeah.
Although
I'll tell you, I do like those two young guys. Trying to think of their names. One played fly half.
Oh God, Lee Alifano or Tamao?
No. Is it Tuma?
Tamawa? Yeah, he's been around a wee while. He's just never got a first team that much.
There was another guy though as well. What was his name?
The centre or the.
I'm trying to remember. I'm just looking it up now. And I thought he looked like a really good find. Pataya. He's got a big future in him. Definitely, he's got a lot of talent. So yeah, but I mean that's the thing. They're still producing decent individuals, but you just look at those, as I said, those teams I was talking about in the past, and as a collective, they just had a lot of star names in there that would get into almost any World 15, and now they've just got like I said, Atapush, Pocock, and Atapush Hooper, and that's about it really right now. Not Pocock anymore because he's retired, hasn't he? So
it was quite a sad way for him to go out actually because he's such a great player.
No, absolutely. But not only is he a great player, I mean, I've just got so much time for what he does, off the field. I mean, we would say in New Zealand he's a real man of mana.
Mm-hmm.
He's got that special quality that just makes him stand out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just looking at my battery and it's going down. I just need to go and get my my power cord.
Yeah, no problem.
So it won't be. Right, there we go. Much better.
Right, all good.
Yeah. We called it the losers final. That's probably really awful, isn't it? Probably really disrespectful, but
bronze final. But it's a game nobody likes to play. But I suppose it gives a bit of pride to semi-final losers.
Yes, no, absolutely. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because I was looking at the last time England won. Didn't we get third in that one?
Well,
my cat is now playing with this cord. Stop it! God. In 2003, that was when England won, wasn't it?
Yeah. New Zealand got third.
Yeah. So it would be nice to finish the tournament on a win, but I don't know. I think that New Zealand will be so disappointed. I don't know if they'll be able to come out. I'm gonna be surprised to see how it goes.
I think actually the reverse. I think New Zealand will. I mean, the thing is, so will Wales as well. They'll want to send Gatlin out in a high, and New Zealand will want to send Hansen and Kieran Reid out in a high. So it's in that sense, there's quite a bit to play for, and I think New Zealand, I just don't lose twice in a row, and they're going to be absolutely pumped up. And I just question. I'm actually more questioning of Wales, just because they have a few injuries and there's a few players. I mean, because Jonathan Davis was almost like duct taped up to play that game against South Africa. I mean, he did well for what he did, but he was almost like, he had his knee in such heavy strapping, and Hadley Park had a broken hand apparently. So I mean, there's a few of those Welsh players that are on, like in terms of injury wise, they're just keeping it together with duct tape right now. So so I mean, that's where I think, like, I just think New Zealand will have too much for them overall, and New Zealand will certainly want to bounce back.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I can see us slipping down those World Rugby rankings more and more and more. We're at 3 at the moment.
3? Really? What? New Zealand are 3 now?
Yeah.
Really?
South Africa is in second place.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a turn up for me. I didn't know that, but okay.
Yeah,
I knew England were 1 now, but I didn't know South Africa were 2.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I personally don't pay much attention to the rankings until the World Cup's getting drawn, or just before then. So that's the way I view it. I mean, unless Scotland get 1, then yeah, I'll go crazy, but that's not going to happen. So yeah.
Well, I thought it was. I mean, I think this has been an interesting year, hasn't it? Because we've had two teams reach number 1. I mean, before that, only 3 teams had ever been.
3 or 4 teams have reached number 1. I think.
What I mean is two new teams.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay, yeah.
But because before that, New Zealand, England, and South Africa had the only teams that had ever been number 1. So I think this year has been actually a good year for rugby. Because there has been that turnaround on the rankings, whether we rate them or not. I mean, oh God, it just seems nuts to me the way that it's organised, but I don't know any other better way to organise it. And the fact that, I mean, I'm so conflicted. I mean, I am supporting England in the final, but I am conflicted because, of course, we like to think of Old Bill as a Southern Hemisphere Cup. Let's face it, he spent most of his life in the Southern Hemisphere. So, I mean, if South Africa win it, I mean, it's great. It stays south. So, that's something that we would, most of us down there would like. For me, I'm backing England. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons, but also absolutely selfish reasons. If England win it, that means that they've won it twice.
Mm-hmm.
If South Africa win it, that means they've won it 3 times, like we have.
I was going to say, and if England win it, we up north, we're never going to hear the end of it until for bloody ever. So.
Oh wow! After the Cricket World Cup.
Well, the football one they haven't shut up about. That's 1966.
That's right. Ago, wasn't it?
If there's any English person listening to this who's offended by that, then you should be. So sorry, not sorry. That's what I.
The Cricket World Cup is still. I love cricket. I played cricket all through school. So when that happened, I was just like, I was mortified. But no, I mean, they deserve to win it based on that last game. They really do. Yeah.
Well, I'd say yes and no. I mean, because I think they deserve to win it better based on how they play in the final. Like, I think all teams do. But
yeah.
But I mean,
no, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the sentiment you're trying to come from as a tournament as a whole. Because I mean, on form, England have definitely been the best team despite that cancelled game against France. But I think it is really just down to the final how it goes, and I think it will be a bit closer than the one against the England New Zealand game, but I think England will just come through it. So.
Oh yeah, I don't imagine South Africa are going to play as badly as we did. I don't think anybody could.
They'll play differently because, as I said, South Africa and New Zealand. I've said this a few times. New Zealand like to play a quick game. And South Africa, they'll just take no qualms whatsoever about trying to slow it down and, wear down the opposition through the way they do it. And that could be, I don't think it'll be quite enough against England to tip it in their favour, but I think it will give them a closer game.
I think, though, it would be, better for rugby per se if it goes back to the Northern Hemisphere, because it has been down south for so long. I think, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's about sharing it around. I mean, it would have been great for Wales to win.
Right. Would have been great.
Have a newbie.
Yeah.
Been great, but
I mean, I would have taken it Wales over England, to be honest. But anyway, I would have taken Scotland over any of them. But we are where we are right now. So I'll accept that.
Oh, look, I'll tell you what, though. I really felt for Scotland in 2015. I just thought, because it's happened to us before, it's not a nice way to go out when there's controversy like that. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, but I don't know. It is what it is now. It's like, what can you do about it? So, although there was I was in a bar in Edinburgh not long afterwards, just out with a couple of mates, and there was quite a nice sign on the bar saying Craig Joubert's barred from here. So that was quite reassuring to see. But yeah, no, I mean, being a doing referee myself, I have just taken on board, I've come to sympathise with Joubert a bit more rather than just resent him, which I did for a few weeks after the match. But but no, I mean, because I just get how tough a job it is, and how you've got 100 things to look out for at once. But yeah, in that situation, I know it's 4 years ago. In that situation, so we should have gone to the TMO and to check it over. But again, it is what it is now. What can you do?
Well, that's it, isn't it? I mean, and for us, I guess, 1995, 2007, it's the past. Nothing ever is going to change the name that's on the cup. So I mean, it still comes up occasionally, obviously, but you got to move on. And I guess the All Blacks always talk about taking learnings from things.
Yeah, taking learnings from food poisoning.
But yeah, so it's interesting. But no, I think it's been a really good World Cup. I mean, I think Japan has just blown everybody away with their how hospitable they've been, and the way that they coped. I mean, I know there was a lot of controversy because of the weather and the cancelled games and everything, but they did cope remarkably well, considering it was so horrific, and the loss of life and everything.
I still think they should have looked to try and postpone the games, though, that instead of just outright cancel them. But I mean, obviously, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I guess so that can you possibly have it so that potentially every game can be postponed? I just don't know a way around that. I guess they've got those rules in because there's so many games. There's 40 odd games, isn't there? And if something happens, they can't postpone a lot of games.
Well, yeah. I mean, the thing is, though, the rule was put in 1987 initially, which is back when the game was still amateur. I mean, I know, before this tournament, all the teams agreed to this, but I think again it was kind of naive when, in the typhoon that was coming. It was because it's not like it's something completely out of the blue in Japan. I mean, of course, I want to stress in perspective, rugby is only a game compared to what actually happened and the lives lost and people who lost their houses and all that. Yeah. But but I mean, I still think so wish they could have looked to postpone it. But again, what can you do? Just have to say it's only a game, really, in the grand scheme.
Yeah. Well, I think they've still got to work on the rest days and trying to get that more even across the board as well. And I was reading, and I can't remember if it was an Irish paper or if it was an English paper, and the journalist said, if they only played from Thursday to Sunday, they could actually even it up a bit more and just have more games on those days, which is completely possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or maybe try and extend it an extra week. Sorry.
Yeah. But I think it's worth noting that when the women play, they only have 3 days between games.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
Well,
I looked at one.
I'm sure that's going to be changed in not too long. But
well, I mean, and I've seen all the arguments. Oh, the game's not as fast, and they're not they don't crash as much and all the rest of it, but it's still physically exhausting, isn't it, playing a game of rugby?
Still from an endurance point of view. I'd say an endurance more than a physical battle point of view. Endurance point of view is, I think you do need a few days recovery. I mean, I know, sort of if I've just done refereeing on a Saturday, I need the Sunday just to, completely put my feet up to.
I bet you do, yeah.
Just because, of how much running around and movement you're doing, you need to at least have a couple of days just to get your body back into shape. And if you're playing as well, I mean, the time it must be like, you've come out at the end of a car crash at the end, and you just need a couple of days to get your body back into things.
Right.
I'm not a medical expert. I don't know all the ins and outs of that, but I do get the general idea that you do need plenty of rest time after something like that.
Yeah. So, when the guys complain that they only have 5 days or 6 days, it's like, think of the ladies.
My problem with guys rugby is, I think the players all now are smart in my opinion. I think I don't see this happening, but I think they should be focusing more on skill and technique and trying to make, at least in the professional level, I'll talk about mainly the professional level here. If you want to go further down, it's a bit different, but in the professional level, I think they should be looking to make them a bit leaner, a bit more focused on skill and technique. But again, with just how many different ways there are to play rugby, and just with how the demands of the professional game as a business now, not just as a sport itself. I sadly exactly. I sadly don't see that happening. So let's just.
There's been a lot of research done about the increase in the size of players, and of course, that means greater impact. And of course, this is why we're having the concussion problems and all those kinds of issues now. Mm. But then research pointed out that those big smashes, that's good for viewership, isn't it? That's good to bring people that may not be from rugby countries or whatever. That looks fast and exciting. Rugby when they're really smashing into each other and everything.
I'd say it's more exciting when you're spreading the ball wide and trying to beat people by quick offloading and fat and straight running and all those kind of stuff, a bit more than physicality. But I do take your point. It's nice. It is sometimes good to see an actual proper hard hitting tackle. But then you've also got like the French league or how they play in South Africa, where they've just got players who are just designed to absolutely knock the living daylights out of their opponents. Mm. 70% of the French league is just basically big lumps smashing into each other, and
it's just such a shame. Rugby was always a sport where it didn't matter what your physique was. There was a role for you, wasn't there?
I think there still is. There's just more, muscle. They're just certain leagues, certain countries just demanding more muscle. I don't necessarily see the bulking up as being particularly good for the sport. Yeah,
I don't know. I think also, is it going to open the door? A little bit for people to think, I'm not going to get there without some supplements.
I think
because all boy rugby in the world where the enhancing drugs is starting to be a bit of a problem, and if it's sort of a problem in the schoolboy level, is that going to carry through? Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is there, but I think it's interesting times for World Rugby. Mm-hmm. Just there's a lot going on, and when you think about the women's game as well, I think there's a lot going on that they've got to start being really proactive and maybe sort of seeking what's asking people. Not just the powers that be, trying to get out to unions and seeing what people think would be the best ways forward. Make it more democratic, I guess, with some of the decisions that are being made. Like the eligibility rules. I think that they need to be tightened up as well.
I'm actually, for one, happy they're changing next year because they're going to be going on to 5 years rather than 3 years for.
It's supposed to be after the World Cup, isn't it? But they're changing that to 5 years.
No, it's summer 2020.
I thought it was after the World Cup, but because we don't want it to be like league, like it's just a little bit,
Well, I think
you can play for any.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the thing is though, tactically though, I think with their game has sadly gone a bit like league, especially with the defense, because that's most of the game these days revolves around how strong your defense is, and that's more or less what wins you. Because that's the thing. England, like, they played really well when they had the ball, but the main thing that beat New Zealand was how good their defense was above anything.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's kind of thing. I don't see how that's going to change, other than just teams learning to keep the ball better and be better in the offloads and that. But I mean, in terms of like good strong defenses, I don't think that's going to change at all, and especially with the professional game. Yeah,
it's quite funny because in the morning of the All Blacks England game, my auntie sent me a text from New Zealand. She's a Crusaders supporter. Oh, is she what? And there's 8 Crusaders in the All Blacks today. And automatically you think, oh well, the defence will be good then if the Crusaders are there. It's like no.
Well, to be fair, New Zealand's defence is mostly pretty good. It's just England find ways to exploit it a bit more.
As I said, it was just so bloody unfortunate that so many men would have an off day on the same day. No, you can't take it away from England. England were just superior. They just in every facet of the game, they deserved that win 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, my heart would be like gutted if England won the final, but in my head, I would if they won it playing as they did, I think they'd deserve it. And also prove me wrong a bit as well, because I thought after the Six Nations, psychologically, I had some doubts there. But I mean,
yes.
But I mean, at the same time, you think, I mean, they seem to have got themselves together better there now, and so we'll see what happens next Saturday. But I think England definitely the favourites. We can agree there. And
I mean, I'm not sorry for Ireland too, because Ireland had such a good build up previously, not this last Six Nations. But they beat us twice and really good wins as well, and they were just looking like they could have gone so much further, and this year hasn't been a good year for them. And again, it's I felt so sorry for them. When you saw the pictures of Rory Best and Joe Smith, it's a shame. But I guess not everybody can win. I guess that's the nature of sport, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you there. I don't know about feeling sorry for Ireland. I mean, I feel sorry for their individual, like Rory Best finishing as he did, of course. But I mean, Ireland as a collective, they've been worked out this year, and Joe Schmidt hasn't looked for a way around it other than just as usual. So that's where, like, I think they've been worked out and they haven't had a plan B. I mean, going forward, but is Andy Farrell going to improve or change things? Time will tell. We don't know. We don't know yet. But I know. I mean, on the whole, that's where I know Joe loves to. And our mate Joe Shepherd, he loves to go on about Ireland. We have a plan B. And I just look to them this World Cup. It's like, sorry, Joe, you don't, mate. So
yeah, they just seemed to go a bit stale there, didn't they?
Yeah.
Like, I've got a lot of time for Joe Schmidt. I think I always wanted him to take over from Hansen, and I was so disappointed when he said he wasn't available. And deep down, I was thinking, oh, is he just saying that? Is he just saying that?
Yeah, he's actually got some personal stuff going on there, so he's taking a break.
Exactly, and he hasn't had a day off in 6 years. I mean, his family deserve to have some Joe time.
Absolutely.
I love the story though he told after the game in Chicago. He said, Hansen went and congratulated him and all the rest of it, and then the post-match media conference. I can't remember how it came up, but he said talked to his mother on the phone, and his mother went mad at him for beating the All Blacks. I thought that was brilliant.
Well, that's funny. I like that, actually. It's cool. But yeah, I don't know what else to say to that. That's pretty funny. But no, I mean, that's just telling like of how many coaches New Zealand produce. Because you've have been basically more or less ahead of everyone else when in terms of because the game. I've still have to remember the game only went professional in 1995, and there's still I think some, especially in the Northern Hemisphere, still catching up with that a bit. I mean, because even England, who are obviously favourites to be World Championship, they've got a Southern Hemisphere coach, so it's just
that's it. I mean, I've got myself into trouble before by suggesting perhaps the reason for the catch up is because of the Southern Hemisphere people that are in the Northern Hemisphere, either coaching or playing. That obviously has an impact.
Well, it absolutely has, yeah.
I was just looking for. I went through all the teams and wrote down how many coaches we had at the Rugby World Cup, and it was astounding. It was really amazing. I think 7 head coaches were New Zealanders, and we had here we go. Let me see, including New Zealand, 6, 7, 8, 9, 22 coaches were from New Zealand.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. So
it's just a huge amount. And I guess it's just one of those things. And I mean, I don't begrudge them one bit. I mean, it's their job. They need to, I mean, I'd be a hypocrite if I begrudged them going offshore to work, and there's only so many jobs in New Zealand. It's the same for the players. I mean, I'm always reading these articles about the demise of New Zealand rugby because of the player drain. And it's like, well, that's actually been happening a long, long time. There's that cycle. And we'll have guys like, Bender and all the rest of it, they're leaving. They're finishing their international careers after the World Cup and they're going overseas. I mean, that's what they do. They need to make some real money because they don't make the money in New Zealand. They need to make some real money so that they've got a nest egg to retire. But the guys that leave before the retirement, they're the guys that have either never been in the running for the All Blacks, or they might have had a couple of games, but then for whatever reason somebody else has taken their place and they just can't get a shoe in again. So although we do lose a lot of guys, it's true, we still have those guys coming up through the grassroots system.
Yeah, I mean, I think New Zealand does that better than anyone else, really. I mean, it's telling that likes of Australia and South Africa, because they've got no qualms now about picking players overseas, and I think so I can't remember if it's. I don't think it's still the 60 cap rule with Australia. I mean, I stand to be corrected there, but they've been picking quite a lot of them overseas. South Africa, like they've been doing it for ages as well. So I mean, I think that's where I do actually respect New Zealand, and that they do keep producing players and they do keep producing at a very high standards, and they do try to tell them, look, if you want to be an All Black, you have to play in New Zealand, and I'd like to see them stick to that, but also just with the demands and the money in the professional game, I don't know. I mean, long term, I might see them possibly going. I hope they don't, though. I mean, I hope they don't. But I mean, I
think if you speak to most New Zealanders, it's something that we really, really believe in. Having that rule. But see, when you think of Retallick and Whitelock and Bowden, they've all got those sabbaticals written into their contracts now, so that gives them time to go to Japan. And make the money and then come back for their All Black duties. So they're still sort of they're still employees of New Zealand rugby. And from our perspective, I would rather they go to Japan than go and play in France, because the league isn't as they don't have as many games, and I don't think the level of rugby is as hard as it would be in the UK or in France. So, so we're not getting beaten players back. We're getting players that have, had a cool experienced a new culture and all the rest of it. So they come back invigorated. So I see that as a win-win. A lot of people back home sort of see that as sort of a sitting on the fence between, the way we want to do it and sort of getting to the stage where we pick offshore players. But I mean, I don't know how they manage the money. I don't know how they manage the books, at NZR, because they don't have a lot of money, and I think they've got to always be open to how to keep the players happy, but keep them at home as well.
Yeah, and just because with the money, I think it's just going to keep growing everywhere, which in a way kind of saddens me because I have I have still like traditional ideals of how rugby should be in terms of not just in terms of the game, but in terms of spirit as well. And I just see with the game getting more and more professional, and social media's played a part in this as well. I just see more and more folk who are just getting all like sort of all like when things don't go all their way. I'm not saying I'm completely innocent of that, by the way, but I'm just saying like I just see it more and more with some folks. So, I mean, passion I think's fine, but it's when you're getting nasty with people that's where the problem lies with me.
Well, I think the media have a lot to answer for that.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, a lot of the articles that they write, I think they're aiming at causing, discord or disharmony amongst people. And like, how often do you see a headline and it bears no relationship to the article? I mean, I take a special interest in that because I'm teaching a journalism course at the moment, so I find it fascinating. But it's like there's so many examples of really poor journalism out there, and people get and again, I've been there and I've done it too. Like get so upset because of this piece of writing, and then I've had Northern Hemisphere friends say to me, nobody listens to him, and I've said the same about some of our guys, and it's like I started making the conscious decision not to share these things on the groups that I'm involved with because it just causes too much bitterness, and then start thinking, bloody Scottish, blah 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 blah, and it's not that at all. It's like one person that's being paid to be controversial, but it's so easy, and people just generalize, don't they, all the time, and I know I get really pissed off at being one of those bloody arrogant Kiwis because of this stupid writer in Christchurch,
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I've had it all some kind of like whatever to love it really. But hey, I'll say what I say. What folk like want to engage. That's fine. If they don't, then that's fine.
Yeah.
I keep my all talk page fairly open for that because I haven't removed many members because I just think that's I mean, you could argue I don't have a great standard, but also I think sort of should be a platform for folk to actually say what they think, and just because someone's pissed off or offended by it doesn't always mean they're right.
Yeah.
Obviously, where the line is, like with folk, if it gets too nasty in that. But that's where I step in and say no, okay, that's not on. But if it goes overboard, then I'll say something. So
I think that's kind of refreshing. I mean, sometimes what people report, some of the things that people report, you sort of look at it and think, what's wrong with that? Like I don't see anything wrong with that. And so again, it's always perspective, isn't it? You see things through your own set of eyes.
Exactly. Anyway, is there anything else you want to chat about, or shall we wrap up the recording?
I want to say one thing. This new, I don't even know what to call it, thing about the haka and whether England are going to get fined.
Oh, God.
For the meter line. That is not New Zealand rugby. That is world rugby. It's their ruling. It's got nothing to do with New Zealand.
Yeah, it's no, exactly. And that's the thing.
Most of us are as pissed off about that as anybody else, because I thought the English response was fabulous. I thought the Irish response was fabulous. And if you think about haka, and if you think about how it would have been done, back in the days before New Zealand was colonised, Māori warriors wouldn't have stood there at attention waiting for the others to finish their haka. There was always a response, and we love seeing that. And again, it irritates me that a lot of people think that we're really too precious about it and all the rest of it. Yeah, we don't like it being disrespected, but responding isn't disrespectful, not the way that it's been responded to lately. It's been great.
I know, I fully agree. And to be honest with you, and Zakaia, I haven't seen one New Zealander that was offended by what happened. I mean, not one. All the things I've read, it's all coming from World Rugby, and most of it. I mean, even like the 2011. You remember the 2011 final where France did their sort of arrow and then they marched up to it. I thought that was brilliant, and then they got fined for doing that. No, and I don't. And again, I don't remember anyone having a problem with it outside of those lot upstairs.
No, not at all.
And
Bloody World Rugby, but unfortunately, it's not. Like you see on the forums, it's not World Rugby that are getting dissed for it. It's New Zealand Rugby, and it's just again, to me that's just unfair that we're being tarred with a certain brush.
I agree with you there. I don't think that's fair at all.
Oh yeah, but I'll tell you what, the best response to a haka was Wales. That one where they had the face off and they didn't move. And the All Blacks didn't move. And I can't remember who the ref was, but he kept on running up and down saying, go, 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 go. And they stood their ground. It was the best response ever. I loved that. Oh, and Ireland's number 8. That was cool as well.
Was that the one with the Anthony Foley one? That was more like a poignant one though. I still like, obviously I'm maybe a bit young here, a bit too young for this. It was a bit before my time. I just remember when Willie Anderson, and was it the 80s or something, he just went up into leading the Ireland right in front of the haka, and then there's like all his teammates were just trying to hold him back. I thought that was, and then I think you had.
Well, it's because of things like that where they got the 10-meter. Directive from World Rugby, because I think there was a few games where the players were almost nose to nose and it was getting really, really quite aggressive, and they just decided that perhaps wasn't good for the look of the game. So
I can somewhat understand that, but at the same time, you think they're professional rugby players, like they should be saving their energy for the game anyway. And if someone goes
into a fight before
I think if someone goes overboard and just like sort of goes like out their line and just punches one of the hot hakas, like it's like you're red carded before the game's even begun, mate. You're a bloody idiot. So I mean, I don't even see the issue with that, to be honest.
I've got to tell you this. This is my newest Scottish fold. I got him at the last Rugby World Cup, and I've got another Scottish fold, and his name's Mackenzie. And it had nothing to do with the rugby player. I just wanted to have a Scottish name for a Scottish cat. Anyway, I got this little fella, not a little fella anymore, and I just, I was going through a book of children's names, thinking, what's a good Scottish name? What's a good Scottish name? And the tally was on. It was the World Cup, and the announcer said something. The commentator said something about, and then McCaw did blah blah blah, and I thought, perfect. So this is McCaw.
Not after Richie. Or...
Yeah.
He's wanting his bit. He's wanting his bit here.
Oh, I know. He just doesn't shut up this one.
Aye. Okay. So, is there anything else we want to talk about? Because we've been going for a good while. So,
I think that's me done.
Okay, that's cool. Well, thank you for coming on, Zakaia. It was excellent talking to you. I think we'll finish up here, and thank you, McCaw, for your cameo as well. Starkey R. Kyle Patterson, thank you very much for listening, guys, and I'll catch you later on. Have a good day.